With the official release of Space Engineers on Steam and the Xbox version just around the corner, I got to thinking about the future of Space Engineers. We've been welding blocks and landing spacecraft for 7 years. Is there nothing truly new for the crafting space vehicle survival game? Just a desolate wasteland of wrecks and clang victims? Fields of rotors and pistons are all that remain for the future? Have we seen just about everything there is to see for Space Engineers, or does the game still have some exciting times ahead? Spoiler, it's exciting times, at least in my opinion. Hello ladies and gents, my name's Captain Shaq. Let's have a chat about the most exciting developments coming to Space Engineers and why I'm still, after thousands of hours of playing the game, looking forward to the future. First, let's talk a little bit about current development. Now, if you're looking at the date of this, there is a public test going on right now that helped spur this video along. So we get an idea of what's just around the corner. And the first big feature is weather. Now, the footage that you're gonna be seeing here, fair warning, is in the public test. This is actually the weather that they have incorporated so far, but it is not completed. It is not actually naturally put into the game. You have to type in console commands to use it, so bear that in mind. Now, some people have jumped up on their soapboxes and started lighting their torches, saying that this is a stolen mod. It is not. It's actually a mod that's being incorporated into the base game. Jakaria, I hope I said your name right, actually created this weather mod. You've probably seen this mod on either my channel or Wasted Spaces channel, and seen like various versions of weather mods that have been coming out of the community recently. It's quite cool to see them actually working with a mod author to incorporate a mod into the game. And weather, if you guys haven't seen any gameplay of what it actually does to your gaming experience, it is awesome. Like, it was one of the biggest immersive achievements that Space Engineers truly needs. When you have a large storm blow through and suddenly your visibility drops to maybe 5 or 6 meters, imagine how scary that is when you're trying to land a aircraft using the aerodynamics mod, or even a normal spacecraft in vanilla Space Engineers. Weather really adds something extra, be it sandstorms on Mars or thunderstorms somewhere on the equator on the Earth-like planet. And from what the modders have been telling me over on the Armco Discord, it is highly customizable and moddable. So for all of those mod authors out there who want to make new planets or enjoy making planets for Space Engineers, now there's going to be a new layer, if this works the way that we think it works, a new layer for how weather can be incorporated into those planetary builds. And there are a lot of cool planet mods already out there. So, right now, we don't have the details, and when I reached out to Keen to find out what they were planning with weather, they said they couldn't really expand upon what the community has already kind of gleaned from the files. So let's move on. We've got a new block on the way. It is a block that I have waited so long for. As someone who loves to build small grid vehicles and ships, we are getting, oh thank baby clang, the small hydrogen tank. Now I know this doesn't seem like a big deal, but here is the original small hydrogen tank. If you're gonna build a small fighter that uses hydrogen, or a small shuttlecraft of some kind, trying to incorporate this monstrosity into your build has always been overly difficult. Where are normal-sized tanks? Boom, here they are. Now we can finally make that fighter that has that one hydrogen burner engine on the back that gets a little boost from his augmenter, aka the afterburner. So let's talk a little bit about the other development, Xbox. Now for PC players, many of you and most of you who are watching this are probably PC players of Space Engineers that have been around for years. You probably don't really care about the Xbox release. I'm really happy to hear that other people are going to be enjoying. A new community is going to grow out of Space Engineers and be able to join in on the fun of building cool things. But why would us PC players really care that it came out? Well, for one, I'm happy to finally get my hands on some full proper controller support. Being able to just relax at my desk, or maybe if I'm streaming over to my Steam Link on my PC to play some Space Engineers on my Xbox One controller, well, that's awesome. As a content creator, having proper controller support so I can actually zoom around the map, and we've had kind of a half, I hate to say it, but a half-assed kind of version of controller support already in the game. I'm looking forward to trying out the new controls. But the other part that's come out of this new build, and with what I think is part of the Xbox release, is optimization. There are multiple posts right now on Reddit that are being voted up and up and up of people saying that large grid starships are much more functional. Now, my testing has kind of gone back and forth. Some of my more stationary structures and cities that I've loaded up seem to be running okay. My larger ships, this requires more testing and testing in multiplayer. But if this is the case, if it truly is more optimized to run better with large, very large ships, you can imagine what this means for space engineers and the player base and creating content when we can have Star Destroyers and Babylon 5 style huge vessels in the world space, and it continues to run. Some people are even saying that it's running so much better not even since the planet update, that they've taken old builds from back then and brought them into the game, and now those builds are suddenly working much better through some kind of optimization. It's interesting to see, requires further testing, and I will dive into that over the next week or so, and I'll report back. So outside of what we know for the future of development, and it seems like Keen is pretty, well, for lack of a better term, keen on continuing to make new blocks that come out with patches and also DLC decorative items that I think is working out fairly well for them. I hope it is. What's going on in Space Engineers as a community that makes me excited for the future? And this is where it really sinks. We've got a couple of big mods that are going to be the basis for the future mods that come out for Space Engineers. The first one that I want to talk about is Weapon Core. Weapon Core is a platform for modders to make all kinds of crazy weapons that wouldn't work normally in Space Engineers by default. Things like cluster tracking missiles, or the ability to set up quad-barreled battleship cannons that fire properly and have to be reloaded. It gives modders much more concise tools to build what they want, but it does more than just this. It does more than just give us a platform for new weapons. It also gives us a targeting and classification system, so when we target something, we can find out, is it a scout or a fighter, a destroyer, a battleship, a capital ship? We can find out what kind of threat it is based on a system that'll come up when you lock on targets. So you'll find out whether or not the ship has shields and what those shields are actually at. You can find out what speed of the ship is in comparison to your own, and even the distance of your weapons versus the distance to target, all by actually targeting a ship. Now, let me say that again. Targeting a ship. Right now in vanilla Space Engineers, you can't actually target a ship. Now I want to do a full Weapon Core deep dive at some point when multiplayer for it has been finalized and released, so we know that multiplayer works and you guys can dive in right away. And there is so much in Weapon Core that is worth talking about. So right there, that mod by itself, incredibly exciting for the community, as it's going to open up all kinds of crazy battles and multiplayer possibilities that are far more interesting and tactical than what we have access to right now. Now, it was mentioned earlier about the weather mod, and how Jakaria had created this mod and now it's kind of being incorporated into Space Engineers. But, and here's one of the cooler things, Jakaria has also made another mod called the Nebula mod. And it does exactly what you think it does. It creates these patches of nebula inside the solar system, something that we've never had in Space Engineers flying around. And it has been mentioned by some of the mod authors that some files for the Nebula mod have been found in the current build of Space Engineers. Now, I personally haven't confirmed this, but I've gotten it from enough sources, enough mod authors to think that this is pretty legit, and maybe we'll see nebulas generating in space as we explore. Pretty exciting. And if that's not the case, hopefully the Nebula mod, which is on the front page right now, the workshop, continues to get developed. I'm down for anything that allows us to do more in exploration and survival. Speaking of survival, continued development by Lucas. Known for the Corruption PvE mod and the Orcs mod, he's the guy that's always coming up with new monsters that go clang in the night and haunt our engineers' survival dreams. He's coming up with a new mod that's going to be the basis for a series of mods made by the community called Rival AI. What he says, the main gimmicks for this mod are, there's gonna be better planet pathing for the AI, so less bashing into mountains and hills. We've seen this in different survival series that I've done in live streams, where the AI has trouble figuring out where the nearest mountain is and sometimes doesn't see it at all and goes straight into it. He's pushed a lot for better performance for AI-based stuff, actually pushing things to parallel threads, so the mod can crunch the numbers a little easier without hurting our sim speed, which is probably the biggest worry when it comes to adding new stuff to your save. And it's being planned to work with Weapons Core. So the biggest idea with this is that anyone who's even dabbled in modding a bit can dive into the Rival AI base mod and create their own AI threat to put out on the workshop for the rest of us to have to deal with. Be they orcs, or reavers, or corruption, or whatever else players can come up with that we might have to fight against. or maybe even help. Ah, man, it's going to be very, very, very cool when we get into battle with these new AI factions. Anyways, these are a few of the biggest mods for Space Engineers that have got me very excited for the future. I'm curious, do you have any that you're excited for? Let me know in the comments below. And how do you hope that the weather mod is going to work in Space Engineers? Make sure you join us over on the Discord. The Armco Discord is now public. Head on over, get yourself set up and enlisted inside so you can see all the channels and the voice comms. Join us. I've got my own personal chat in there, Wasted's in there, Morph runs in there. We're always running streams and whatnot. And that's where the community gets together to do fun, crazy things. So I hope I see you all over there. I'll see you all in the next one.